Repeat this, nerds. Okay, I promise I am not just going to do book recommendations this whole time, but I've got another really good one. Okay, so this one's a little bit more targeted, I guess. I've always wanted to learn what deep learning is, how it works, how to build neural networks from scratch. This book is perfect, especially if you've used a lot of other resources and it didn't really quite make sense how it happened from scratch. And maybe you have some intuitions, but not a lot. Okay, had to cross the street. Maybe you have a decent understanding behind many of the ideas or intuitions that drive the design of neural networks and deep learning, but when you read many of the scientific papers, some of the math equations don't map for you to the diagrams, let's say. Then I think this will help too. So there's a few different demographics I think this will be a really good resource for. There are two things you need to be able to follow this book. So you need a tiny bit of programming experience, just a little bit. You don't need to have a degree or even a bunch of classes behind you, just a little bit of experience, maybe 1 or 2 intro classes. And you need, bare minimum, a high school level understanding of algebra. That's it. You can follow this book. So if you're in high school right now and you want to learn deep learning, this is also great for you. Here's a couple reasons why I like it, and I'll pull out the book in a second here. A couple reasons why I like it. Pedagogically, it's a masterpiece. It is designed so well. You have to read it cover to cover though. So start from the beginning, read it just like a normal book. This isn't like a textbook reading. And every piece adds on top of the other. Everything will be reused later in the book. Everything is in a functional programming language, Racket, which is based off of Lisp. If you don't have functional programming experience, that's okay. What you need to do is just follow along in the book. Even if you have experience in a different programming language, it'll take you from point A, where you just know a little bit of programming, and then it'll teach you first the syntax and how to use Racket, how to use a functional programming language, not necessarily how it works. And then you learn a bunch of things passively, like recursion. This whole thing is recursive. Lots of, especially undergrads, when they first are introduced, have a hard time understanding recursion, but this whole book is taught recursively. So it's awesome. So you'll have that passively, you'll learn and have really good intuition for that as well. And there's even some really good like design pattern stuff I noticed. Just trust me on this. There's a lot, I don't really want to go into it, but there's a lot of really good patterns and learning how to make things that can be plugged in and be modular and used all throughout bigger projects. You start learning, okay, how does this language work, recursion, and what your loss functions are, gradient descent, all the way up to how we design a neural network, how to choose your hyperparameters, what each hyperparameter does within each and every function. And all of this, surprisingly, we really only need high school algebra. Pretty wild. Couple downsides. I wish it was in Python, or, well, that's just my own preference. I also wish there were more diagrams. So this book, funnily enough, every time most people try to teach deep learning or neural networks, there's tons of diagrams drawing out the network itself and giving you kind of a visual of how it works. There's none. You're looking just at endless parentheses, but one of the main reasons I love this book too is how it's taught. So it's incredibly approachable and taught like a conversation. I'll give you an example. All right, so here it is. The Little Learner, A Straight Line to Deep Learning by Daniel Friedman and Anurag Mendikar. Here's just an example of what it looks like. So as you can see, it's really conversational. It feels interactive, even if you're not the one necessarily interacting with this author. It feels like it. It feels kind of like you're the second person in this conversation, kind of. If ever I end up teaching like an introduction to deep learning course myself, I think this is going to be the text I use. I might adapt it, maybe turn it into Python, just because I like it more. It's less confusing than all the parentheses. Yeah, so as you see, wonderful. Don't skip anything. Read it from cover to cover. Oh, and before I forget, you definitely want the physical copy. The PDF or well, I don't know if there's a PDF, but I know the EPUB or Mobi or whatever, the Amazon Kindle version doesn't cut it. There's lots of color coding and boxes and stuff that does not translate to those versions. So you want the physical copy. Trust me, I like never recommend that, but yeah, you want the physical real book. So you go from learning the basics of a language to convolutional neural networks, and really you have enough of a foundation where it's only a few more steps that bring you to the transformer architecture, which is hyper popular and a major driving force of really successful language models such as ChatGPT, but it by no means is only limited to language. So yeah, check it out. See you later.